Hi everyone, today we're going to focus on Central America. Our lesson objectives are to use maps and globes to analyze and interpret the geography of Central America. We'll locate the major countries of Central America, as well as describe the major landforms, water systems, and climate of the region. We'll also identify the natural resources and natural hazards, as well as describe the physical geography of Central America. There are 4 vocabulary terms for this lesson, the most important of which is isthmus. The first word here is isthmus. An isthmus is a land bridge connecting 2 continents. The next is subtropical. Subtropical is an area between 30 and 40 degrees latitude, so we're describing a climate, with temperatures that remain above 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Third on the list is tropical storm. Tropical storm is a strong thunderstorm with circular winds of 39 to 73 miles per hour. And last we have volcanic cone. A volcanic cone is a hill or mountain that builds up around the vent of a volcano. As you can see from this picture, the region of Central America is a land bridge between North America in the north and South America in the south. Central America is an isthmus that connects the continents, again, of North and South America. An isthmus, one more time, is a narrow strip of land with sea on either side forming a link between 2 larger areas of land. You will see this again. Central America is important for world travel. Today, the location of Central America plays an important role in the world. Before World War I, boats had to spend days traveling around the whole continent of South America to reach their destinations. So to go from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, before Central America became kind of prominent in world travel, you had to go all the way around South America. That trip took about 67 days. With Central America, this narrow land bridge, this isthmus, we were able to create a canal called the Panama Canal that goes through this land and provides a travel way from the Atlantic to the Pacific, cutting the trip from 67 days down to approximately 22 days. The Panama Canal was opened in 1914. The Panama Canal is pictured here. The French first attempted a canal in Nicaragua, but it failed due to the workers being killed by tropical diseases. The U.S. wanted to have the ability to compete in the world market, and they felt the way to do that was to create a passageway from the Pacific to the Atlantic Ocean. It was faster, cheaper, and more efficient for moving goods around the globe. The United States paid Panama $10 million and a $250,000 annual annuity until 1999. After 1999, Panama regained control of their canal. The countries of Central America, starting from Panama, will travel south to north. We have Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Belize. Traveling north to south, we have Belize, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. Panama, again, is where we have the Panama Canal. Belize is one of the only countries in Central America that only has a coastline with the Caribbean Sea. It's a bit smaller than the state of Massachusetts, and it has the highest percentage of undeveloped rainforest in Central America. Like most of the region, the climate in Belize is tropical. Like most tropical climates, it has 2 seasons, a rainy season from May to November, and a dry season from November to May. Again, like most countries in this region, hurricanes are a frequent occurrence, and flooding is often a problem on the southern coast. Most of Belize lies on a flat, swampy plain, and there are low mountains in the south. Moving south, we have Guatemala. Guatemala is a bit smaller than the state of Tennessee, and again, it has a tropical climate. It's cooler in the mountains because, as we know, the higher up in elevation, usually the cooler the climate. Hurricanes and tropical storms are frequent visitors in Guatemala, and its landscape is mostly mountainous, with a plains area in the central portion of the country, along with coastal region, where there's plains in the coastal regions. Guatemala also occasionally will experience earthquakes. Honduras is a country that has a coast both on the Pacific and on the Caribbean Sea. It's approximately the same size as Guatemala, and there is a lowland climate that's subtropical, and then the higher up in the mountains, the climate is temperate. Again, hurricanes and floods are problems in this region, and it's important to note that the coastal plains of Honduras that border the country are flatter, and then the center of Honduras is mountainous. Just similar to Guatemala, mild earthquakes are a frequent occurrence here as well. Next up is El Salvador. It's the smallest country in Central America, but it is known as the land of volcanoes. You can see here in this picture that is a picture of a volcanic cone. The landscape of El Salvador is much like Honduras, with plains along its coast and mountains in the center. Hurricanes are also a problem for this country, and much like the rest of the region, the climate here is tropical, with a rainy season and a dry season. Next is Nicaragua. Nicaragua also has a coast on the Pacific and the Caribbean. It's a little bit smaller than New York. Its climate is tropical in the lower land and cooler in the mountains, and it's plagued by hurricanes. There are wide plains that run along Nicaragua's eastern coast. A narrow area of plains extend along the west coast, broken up in the middle by volcanoes and mountains in the center. Natural hazards here are, including hurricanes, we have earthquakes, volcanoes, and landslides. Costa Rica has a border with the Pacific Ocean as well as the Caribbean. It's almost as large as the state of West Virginia, and it has climates of tropical and subtropical. It has a rainy and a dry season, and of course, like most places, it's cooler in the mountains. Hurricanes frequently strike the eastern coast, bringing flooding and landslides. The terrain of Costa Rica is rugged. Its coastal plains are interrupted by mountains, which include more than 100 volcanic cones. Costa Rica's natural hazards include both earthquakes and volcanoes. Last but certainly not least, we have Panama. As you can see from the pictures, Panama looks a little different than the other countries of Central America, and much of that is attributed to the Panama Canal because it's a metropolitan trading area along the trade route for the Panama Canal. Panama is nearly the size of South Carolina. Its climate is tropical, severe storms strike the area, but forest fires are one of Panama's natural hazards. We've talked about Panama's geographic location, making it strategically important to world trade. The Isthmus of Panama connects North and South America, and Panama is in control of the Panama Canal, which links the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. If you look at the landforms of Central America as a whole, you can tell from this green land that there's lower coastal plains on both the western and eastern side of the region, with mountains pretty much dominating the central area all throughout the region. It's important to note that the coastlines on the west and east coast look a little different. When we are talking about the coast of the Pacific side, the area around it is mostly low-lying grasslands. It's also called a savanna. And then on the east side, which is surrounded by the Caribbean Sea, you've got thick, luscious rainforests which cover the land on the Caribbean side. The soil in this region is very good for the types of plants grown in the rainforest, but it's not good for growing agricultural crops. So that limits the type of crops that can be grown on the eastern side of Central America. As we've discussed, volcanoes are a natural hazard of Central America. As you can tell from this picture in the top left, all of these black triangles indicate volcanoes. So basically, the volcanoes are primarily on the west coast, and what this is called is it's also known as the volcanic arc or the volcanic axis of Central America. There's about 930 miles of land running from Guatemala into Costa Rica and the northern part of Panama that just has volcanoes covering that west coast. It's important to note that the volcanic ash helps enrich the soil, and so this western coast is particularly good for growing crops. We've touched on this, but I want you to remember that on the east we have the Caribbean Sea, and on the west we have the Pacific Ocean. The only countries that don't have coastline on both the Pacific and the Caribbean are Belize, which is only in the Caribbean, and El Salvador, which is only in the Pacific. Again, this is just kind of recapping what we've talked about already. You can see that the equator is here and Central America is right here, which means that the areas closer to the equator are tropical and warm. So that pretty much indicates the type of climate in Central America. Elevation greatly affects the climate of Central America with those mountainous zones. Altitudes between 3,000 and 6,000 feet have mild year-round climates and usually little frost. Altitudes above 6,000 feet are plagued with frequent frosts because the higher up you get, the colder it is, and few crops can be grown here other than potatoes and barley. We've discussed that tropical storms and hurricanes are often frequent visitors to this area, especially along the coastal areas of the Caribbean Sea. You can see here there's a picture of a 1998 hurricane that came through Honduras and wiped out entire villages. So the climate of Central America is affected by air and ocean currents. This has contributed to the waters surrounding the region being warm in summer and fall, which is hurricane season. And that mixes with the storms when they come off the coast of West Africa. The storms intensify in this area. So once again, volcanoes and earthquakes are a part of Central America. You can see that there's plates that are kind of moving toward each other, which are creating these areas of volcanic and seismic activity. If you look here in the bottom picture, you've got the Ring of Fire. This is all over the world, from Australia and Oceania, Asia, North America, and South America. It's called the Ring of Fire. Central America is right here, which is definitely a part of this Ring of Fire. It indicates volcanoes. One of the main natural resources of Central America is its protected ecosystems of the rainforest. Costa Rica is really good about their rainforest conservation programs, and about 2/3 of the country, their rainforests are protected. Also, Belize, 65% of Belize's rainforests are undeveloped, so they're untouched, and 13% of the land in Belize is protected forests. With respect to the rest of the region, we've got timber, fish, petroleum, and hydropower being some of the natural resources. It also has mineral deposits including copper, lead, zinc, gold, and silver. The climate and soil conditions make Central America ideal for growing bananas, coffee, and cacao, which is important for making chocolate. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about this region. Central America is technically a part of North America, but it's also oftentimes linked with South America due to the fact that most people of this region speak Spanish. It is a region that's often overlooked, so I wanted to take some time exploring Central America with you today, and I hope you enjoyed it.